Okay, so welcome back. Here where we left off, we had just created the wrapper CSS style. And we'll go back to that. With that style here, on the right hand side, we did set a width, set a float, but we'll not worry about that later, about floats. And we set a background color of a dark gray just so we could see the div when we put it into our website. Okay, the width being 940. Remember when we did this in Photoshop, 940 was the width of the container. The container transitions into the wrapper here in Dreamweaver, and essentially it's what everything is going to go into. Okay, it's really not a hard concept. A wrapper, things go inside a wrapper. A container, things go inside a container. What we're ready for now is to pretty much do the exact same steps we did with the wrapper as far as the CSS style and creating the div. Only we're going to do this with the header and the navigation bar or the menu, the body and a footer. Later we'll look at how to add sidebars and things like that. For now we're going to do the basic structure of a website. So we'll come up here, back up to selectors where we created the hashtag wrapper, that rule, and we're going to create a header this time. We'll keep the hashtag and we'll create header for the property. Now, for the width of this style, this is where we're going to do something a little bit different. This div, this header div, is going to be inside the wrapper. Okay, get that through your head. Kind of get that wrapped around your head a little bit. It'll be contained inside the wrapper. Okay, so we have two options here that Dreamweaver gives us. We can set it at the exact width of that wrapper, that 940, and it'll fit straight into the middle of that wrapper and fit perfectly in that width. Or we can say inherit. What inherit is going to do, or we could say 100%. Inherit means it's going to inherit the width of whatever it is contained inside of. If we say 100%, that will also make it inherit the width of whatever it is contained inside of. Okay, and we'll see that in just a second. So we're going to make this width 100%. We could put 940 and it would work just fine. Okay, not a problem. It's really up to you, but the proper way that you would want to do this is 100%. What that means is, if I wanted to go back later and change the entire width of my container, my wrapper, and I wanted to increase it by, say, 100 pixels, I would not have to come back and change my header at all because it would stay at 100%. It would increase with it automatically. Okay, right now, not a big deal with what we're doing, but if you do it by percent here, it can make your life a lot easier on the back end if you wanted to go back and change some things. So once we create the wrapper and we set our first width, everything else we can work off of relative values like percents. Okay, so with 100%, I am going to give this a background color just so that we can tell it apart from everything else. So we'll pick a background color, and we'll just pick, was that 6? I think that was 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. Great. Okay, have no clue what color that is, but we'll try it out in a minute when we put our div in. So I'm going to do it just like that. With the header, though, we need to add an extra property here. The header is going to have a height, so we are going to give it a height. And depending on what you did in your mock-up, I'm going to make this header 250 pixels. Okay, you can add the px if you want to, or it will do pixels by default. And there we have 250 pixels, right? So we have a header CSS rule, which is an ID. Okay, just like this one, it's going to be an ID. The reason it's going to be an ID is we denoted that with this hashtag. Okay, it's going to have a width of 100%, and it's going to look for whatever it is contained inside of to get whatever that 100% was, which in our case is going to be 940 because that's the width of the wrapper, background color of whatever that is, and a height of 250. Okay, so here's all we're going to do. That's fine. We'll check out our styles.css. We'll see that that header is now created here, and we'll see all the properties that we made. We'll go to our code, and we're simply going to enter in that div, put it inside of this wrapper just like we did before. So we'll start typing that out. Div ID equals, this time, header. Okay, and of course, do not forget to close this div. It is imperative. If you do not close it, it doesn't exist. It's going to totally mess everything up. You'll see this /div is only going to go with the wrapper. You'll never close the head. And once we get into creating more divs, it's totally going to mess things up. So anytime you create a div, go ahead and close that div off. Okay, make sure you do that. It's very important. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put a space in here just for good luck. We're going to hit refresh, and here we go. So as you see, this got a little bit bigger, right? Scroll that down. This whole thing is going to be 250 pixels, and it's including our header. What I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to come back to our rule real quick. Let me get down here in our div ID header, get down to our properties here. Oh, well, I'm clicking on some funky stuff. Okay, get down to our header, down to our header CSS style. I'm going to change this color here to something else. Let's see. Let's try that. Oh, more gray. Okay, all I did was wait a couple of seconds, and eventually this changed to where that I could change this color around. And I'm going to change it to something besides a gray, just so we can tell it apart a little bit. We'll make it red. So here you see we have our header div. Okay, it is 100% wide. It is 940 wide. It takes the width of whatever it's contained in. As you can see, it's contained within this wrapper. See this wrapper, and then we close the wrapper here. That header is completely enclosed within it. So it takes its width. Okay. Its height is 250, and I want you to notice this. It stretched our wrapper vertically. Okay. We never set a height for our wrapper. It did not have a height at all. So when our header was 250, it literally stretched that wrapper out by 250 pixels. Anything else, any other divs we put in here, or later when we get to the body, to the footer, everything, it's going to continue to stretch this thing out vertically with its height. Okay, it will take whatever height we need. That's what is awesome about Dreamweaver. A lot of you guys were asking me, why don't we just make websites in Photoshop? It's so easy. It is easy, but this is something you cannot do in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you have to pick a height. That's your height. You're stuck with it. In Dreamweaver and with CSS and all this great stuff, it will format itself to what we need. So as we add things, that wrapper is going to stretch out and make it as long as we need it. Okay. Now, let's see. Next, we'll continue to go through this. Okay. Our next div is going to be our navigation bar. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over here, I hit this little plus sign, add a selector, and this one will be we'll call it a nav bar. It could also be called a menu. Tell you what, let's call ours a menu. Okay, it's just a little bit simpler. So we'll call it a menu. We're going to add a property. We're going to start with a width. As you could probably tell, this width of our menu is going to stretch the entire width of the wrapper, just like the header. So we're going to use a relative value of 100%. Okay. We're going to give it a background color. And perhaps this time I can pick a good color. Who knows what that's going to be, right? Somebody probably does. Okay, for height. Remember, this depends on how high yours was in your Photoshop mock-up that you did of your website later, okay? For this height, I'm going to make this 150 just because that's a good solid number for me, 150 pixels. I'll hit enter. And now we're ready to add in that div over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and change this color so that you can see it. I'm going to make it blue. Turned out that 66666 number was dark gray. So I'm going to change that to dark blue. Now, I'm going to show you real quick what you don't want to do. Earlier, we inserted the header div inside the wrapper div. It's exactly what we wanted. And we're also going to put the menu div inside the wrapper div. But what we don't want to do is start putting the menu div inside the header div. I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, if I have this right here, you'll see here's the header, here's where the header closes, here's the menu, here's where the menu closes. It's encompassed inside the header div. Here's what you're going to get when you refresh. Okay, it's totally inside that header div. This is not how we wanted it to turn out. That menu should be down at the bottom, below the header, not inside the header. Okay, so easy fix. I'm just going to go back here and redo. Okay, Control Z.
Keenan jumps to the front.
Keenan. Okay, next, instead of that, we're going to move this closing tag up here. And then we're going to add the menu div below it. Okay, so not inside of it. Here. That's where it was. We're going to put it down below it. So, Control C, Control V, menu div, and cross your fingers, refresh. Bam, there we go. Oh, I hit Control Z a little too many times. It's okay.
Sydney, Morel to the front. Sydney.
We'll come back here to our color and change this color back to blue. And we are good to go. We have a header.
Hottie, Galinda to the front. Hottie.
Wow. Sorry about that, guys. We have a header up at the top, a menu down here at the bottom, and we are ready to go on to our body as well as our footer. Okay? I'm going to let you guys do that on your own. Now, keep in mind, with both of those, the body and the footer, keep the width at 100% for both. Okay? And we're going to name them accordingly, body and footer. So hashtag body, hashtag footer. Both of their widths will be 100% because they're going to be the same width as the wrapper. Play around with their heights. The height of the body, I would say somewhere around maybe 500 pixels to start. If you want to do a little bit more than that, that's fine. It's not going to hurt. You can always adjust it. Give it some kind of background color, like I said, so that you can tell it apart from the other divs. Don't leave them all blue because you won't be able to tell the difference between them. Footers, I would match your footer to your menu just to be, on the easy side. Make it a height of about 150, and that should look pretty solid. And that's all we're going to cover with this unit is just a basic web layout with divs. So go ahead, you're going to have your wrapper, header, menu. Go ahead and I want you to create your body and your footer. Next time we'll look at some more properties that we can add to these to kind of spice it up a little bit, as well as how to create sidebars and things like that. Okay.